All right, good afternoon, guys. So by now, obviously you guys know that today and tomorrow, so Thursday and Friday of this week, we are doing e-learning at home because all your teachers are getting their COVID-19 vaccine. So because of that, we are going to continue on with our prints unit and look at different ways that we can identify certain characteristics, how we can actually group individuals based upon those characteristics, and then also take a little closer look at your own fingerprints. So for Thursday and Friday, you have 4 things to do, and you're going to be able to work at your own pace. Now, there will be office hours, and those office hours are from 9 to 11:30, okay, a.m. So that means you do actually have to wake up a little bit early. So if you have any issue on any of these assignments, please reach out to Mrs. Riggs or Mrs. Baker and let us know what we can help you with, or even just pop into our office hours and we can answer them during that time. If you're still sleeping at 9 or 10 or 11, you can always send us an email too. So the first thing you guys are going to do is your matching prints. And so with the matching prints, this is what your worksheet looks like. You are going to have a variety of fingerprints, and what you're going to need to do is look at the type of print. So based upon what we talked about earlier this week, we want to look and see, well, look at this characteristic. What's that? There's a delta. This looks like a whorl. Whereas here, if you look, I don't see a delta, but I see ridges coming in, up, and out. So this would be an arch. So I know that fingerprint F does not match with fingerprint C. Bummer. So what I would need to do is find another whorl. Now, hey, here's another whorl, but look, I have a spin up top and also a spin down below. This one is actually a double whorl. And guess A does not match with F either. So what you're going to do is go through, kind of like they did in the olden days, and using their magnifying glasses, looking at fingerprints from a crime scene and fingerprints of known suspects or known possible criminals, and say, well, which ones match? Okay. So assume these are all coming from the right hand or all coming from the left hand. So we won't trick you and be like, this one's actually right hand, whereas this one's left hand. Nope. Just find the print that actually matches. Okay? So as you're going through, you're going to list up here, like maybe A matches with B, C matches with D, E with F. Okay? So that's task 1. So that one's not too crazy difficult for you. So going through, looking at those prints, once you match them up, cross it out. Okay? One thing I would suggest is go through, identify the type of print first, and then that way looking for the pairs makes it a little bit easier. Then the second thing you're going to do is the case study. Case studies are 2 perfect examples of how fingerprints are used today, and they both are very, very recent. So I have for you, this one is from 2019. Okay, so really good article for you to see kind of how they use those cold case fingerprints to solve some cases. And then there's one from 2020 that actually latent fingerprints, which we talked about those, actually helps break open that 20-year-old sexual assault case. So both are really good examples of how forensic scientists use fingerprints in solving their crimes. And so both of those you want to read through and then answer some questions. So that one is not too long either. The third thing that you'll have to do comes with identifying specific minutia. So we know that the study of fingerprints is called dactyloscopy. And what we want to do is take our fingerprints, we can lift them using different powders or other techniques. And we talked about some of the different chemical ones we could do as well. We will be using fluorescent powder, we'll use black powder, we will do ninhydrin, we'll do iodine, and then we will also do the cyanoacrylate. This is our super glue. So we will actually lift prints with all of those different techniques. Okay. Other prints that you could also collect and look at, not only your fingerprints, but palm prints, lip prints, teeth, eye, ear, voice, shoe, footprints, all that good stuff. So when you look closer at a fingerprint though, we had talked about how loops are the most common fingerprint in our society. So when we look at it being a loop, just because somebody has a loop, whether that's an ulnar or a radial loop, that doesn't really identify specifically that I match the print. So on all those TV shows, they scan the print into the computer, and then it goes through and runs all the prints. And then all of a sudden it's going to flash and say match, 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 and it circles all these different things on the screen. So if you've ever watched any criminal case show or whatnot, you would have seen something like this. Okay? Well, those little things that they're circling are the ridge patterns or the minutia that make them a little bit different than everybody else. So just because maybe we all have an ulnar loop or a radial loop, there are specific things about our fingerprints that make us unique. Remember, fingerprints are individual evidence, and so that can only match up to one specific person. Even our twins, our identical twins, have different fingerprints. So some of the minutiae that we can actually look for are things like a ridge. So those ridges would actually stop. Maybe there is a dot where one of the ridges is just a little dot in the middle. You could have an island or a spur, or you can have a fork where one ridge will actually split into two ridges. Okay, deltas, you know what a delta is. We talked about that earlier this week. You have eyes, you have bridges. So those are all the characteristics that end up getting circled on that computer program. Little did you know, once it goes through and it circles all these certain characteristics, like for example here, there's my delta, here's the core. Hey, look, right here, there's a scar. You see it cutting right across the middle of the finger? Okay. Look, I have a fork right there. I have a double bifurcation. We see a fork and then another fork right there. So those are all the things that are going to kind of pop up and get circled. They're your specific minutia, your specific characteristics that are unique to you. So as you are going through, you guys are going to be given 2 prints, and I want you to identify 10 different things. Okay, because in order for us to be able to say that the fingerprints from the crime scene match the individual, you have to have anywhere from about 8 to 12 points of similarity. So it's not a hard and fast rule that, oh, well, there's only 4 points rather than 8 points. Well, it is them or it isn't them. The more, the better. So definitely we want to try to shoot for some unique characteristics with our fingerprints. So when we actually have that computer program running and it comes up and it says, hey, match, 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 they then have to actually use a real life human being who is an expert in fingerprinting, and they would go ahead and make the final determination whether or not it matches. So even though we are moving more towards computers and it being able to detect it for us, you still have to have that skill as a forensic. Okay. We'll come back to Henry numbers here on the next assignment. So you guys have 2 large prints for the identifying the minutia. As you're going through, again, I want you to identify at least 10 items between the 2 large fingerprints, and we blew them up as much as we possibly could for you. So as you're going through, for example, what I would do is I would highlight an area like this. I would draw a line out and I would say that is my delta. Or I would draw a circle with one color, don't do black, circle the middle and say, hey, that's my core. Okay, so I gave you a few. There's some things like here, here, here. Okay, all of those things would count. Okay, so you're going to use both these 2 large fingerprints and try to identify, well, hey, look, there's a scar. Okay, so as you're going through, use those as your reference, those slides that we have attached from earlier, so that you can actually go back and say, well, this is this minutia, the ridge is doing this is a characteristic, and then just circle it, draw a line, and say specifically what it is. Okay, so those are the first 3 assignments that you guys are going to be doing. They're pretty quick. They're not too bad for you. Once you're done, do submit them so then we can grade each of them for you and get you those points. And then there is one final activity that is on the Henry numbers, and I will have a second video for you guys to watch for that. That will kind of help clue you in. with the Henry numbers, you want to make sure you have your 10 print card. So hopefully you didn't lose it, because you will need it in order to calculate your 10 print, your actual Henry number. Okay? All right, good luck. Let us know what questions you guys have.